Welcome everybody tonight. This time, I stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation is led by Alderman Harbour, and the pledge of allegiance after that.
Let us pray. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us a unity of spirit. Help us to listen to each other's points of view. Help us work as a unified team. Tonight, we'd also like to pray for our town administrator, our town directors, our town staff. We'd like to say a specific prayer of peace over our town employees as we all work together for the betterment of this town and for ultimately for you and your calling. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022. I have 7 p.m. Ms. Debbie, why don't you call the roll call for us?
All right, we have Mayor Walker,
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Pace.
Here.
Alderman Harbour.
Here.
Alderman Stillmayor.
Here.
Alderman Giannini.
Here, ma'am.
Alderwoman Renfro. Here. And Alderman Aiken is absent.
Okay, moving on. Minutes of a regular board meeting for January 11th, 2022. You have that as Exhibit A in your packet. You have time to look at it. We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Reports, financial report, and if you have that in Exhibit B, it should be on the screen. And Town Administrator Warner, why don't you go over that, and we can have the sales tax back on there.
Yep, got the sales tax back on there. We'll get to that, Mayor. Thank you. So general fund revenues, you can see that we have noted in red $660,000 are loan proceeds for the fire truck purchase. I believe you caught that in the update that the check is in the mail, the prepayment. So the $660,000 is only what we have borrowed to cover the purchase of $963,000 for the apparatus. So we've got a total revenue of $6.5 million, but it is important to note that $660,000 and those other revenues are from the loan. And then expenditures, so you're looking at $6.2 million on the expenditure side. And again, you see that the reflection of not the $660, but the $963. So the $660 plus the other amount is from monies that we had saved up, plus the other money that we had budgeted for the current fiscal year makes up that difference to get you to $963,000. So you can see where your current expenditures are. Cash on hand at the end of the period is $4.2 million, and so far this year we've got excess revenue over expenditures of $345,000. Our State Street aid, you can see our revenues are 62% of what we had planned for, and our expenditures are 77% of what we had planned for. Expenditures will go up a little bit more, and the revenues will go up a little bit more as we travel through the course of the rest of the fiscal year. So we do have a excess expenses over revenues of $48,000, but our cash on hand at the beginning of the year was $203,000, and our current cash on hand is $105,000. So we're still okay there with our State Street aid. Drug fund, see revenues are $11,000, expenditures $22,000. Cash on hand at the end of the period is $33,000. So we did have, we do see a little bit more expenditures over revenues there of $11,000, but we do have $33,000 cash on hand. Solid waste revenues there, $388,000. We had talked about this way back in the very early infancy of the fiscal year, where the expenditures were way higher than the revenues, and we discussed the reasons for that. But you can see, as we expected, the revenues to start coming in line with the expenditures. So we've got $388,000 in revenue and $370,000 in expenses. And our cash on hand at the end of the period is $255,610. Water fund, you can see, we'll just talk about the revenues and the expenditures. Our revenues are $669,337, and our total expenses are $775,343. So we do have a loss of 106. Now, that's a cumulative loss since the beginning of the fiscal year. And I did have, as a point of reference, back in the ending December, the loss was 102. So we're taking all the steps that we can to try to keep things in line. So it's not growing quite as quickly as what we started out the current fiscal year in. On our sewer fund, again, revenues are about $770,000. Our total expenses are $849,000, so we've got a loss of $78,417. Total funds, the total for all funds is $9,046,149. I can go to the sales tax report. So it took us a while to get this back in line. So we were providing a sales tax report to you all last year, and we stopped doing that because we discovered that we weren't actually showing you actual figures of what we received, actual dollars that the town received. So what this report does is it shows you actual dollars that we have actually gotten from the state, once the county's gotten their cut, once the administrative fees have gotten out, and the school, the whole shoot match. So this is actually dollars that are getting deposited in the town's accounts. So I gave you 2022, 21, 2020, and 2019, so you had a bit of a reference to look back and get some perspective. But you can see for the month of January, fiscal year 22, we received $141,666 in sales tax revenue. Looking back on fiscal year 21, we had only received 118, so you can see that it's a 19% increase. And as we're encouraging, the chamber's encouraging, most folks are staying closer to home and spending their money closer to home, so we're seeing the fruits of that and the way that folks are starting to spend their money a little differently in the last few years. And we'll continue to populate the data as the rest of the fiscal year moves forward.
Is that it?
Motion approved.
I have one question there. On the gas, I'm sure y'all, chiefs and all, are keep an eye on that. Is that right? Y'all over the budget are there, Mark, we holding tight with that, or is that gonna kick us over, or do you know? Or is that just part of the little picture?
Let me see if, I don't have, I just have the, I
But
got the
that's just
statement of
something I
revenues.
want y'all to be aware of and try to hold in on that, because it's not going down, don't look like.
No, sir.
Okay, all right, we have a motion to approve the financial report as given.
I have one question.
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
On the summary financial condition versus budget, at the very bottom, after number one, says does not include the fire department and Park AC, the $357,896. That fund, did we not use some of that fund for the apparatus purchase, or is that a?
We did, Ms. Debbie could probably answer that. So this is what he's.
Right. We did, actually, just gonna be closing out those dollars are putting into the general fund tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's why that number's still high.
Because these numbers are at the end of January.
Yes, okay. Makes sense.
And that's why we just borrowed 660.
Yes.
We actually received the 660 on January 28th, so there was a time lapse there to get that done. Had we not hit snow, I would have taken it.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Old business, Waste Pro update. Do we have Waste Pro here?
Yes, sir, I think Mr. Jim's here
All right,
to
Mr.
talk
Jim.
about Waste Pro.
Come on up, please. And Mark, do you need him to say anything before he gets up here about it?
No, I think we had a call this morning with Miss Jessie and myself, and had a call with Mr. Jim and Lori Kate from Waste Pro. So we talked through some issues, and I'm sure Mr. Jim will be addressing those.
Okay. All right, kind of give us a summary. I can ask this, I know the weather threw us off, but are we catching up? Are we gonna catch up?
Yes, sir. We're gradually catching up. We had some issues with staffing, as a lot of people did, trying to come back out of the storm. Some people still not at work, but I anticipate tomorrow we'll be caught up here. The trash is all got up, the recycling is not caught up yet, but we're gonna be able to put one, maybe two trucks over here extra tomorrow to be caught up. As far as our staffing, I did come here and meet with y'all back in July when I first got here. There was a lot of issues with staffing at our facility, not having enough people. We've put sign-on bonuses out there to get people in the door. We bumped our rates up for our drivers' pay, costing us about 22% more on pay to get people in the door and try to keep them. Right now, our staffing is where it needs to be as far as with drivers, so that helps us to get out to our customers and take care of them when we have enough people. We're still having issues with technicians because they're hard to find in this area because there's so much competition for them. That's another area where we've had to bump our pay up about 30% just to try to get people in the door. Once again, paying sign-on bonuses. 'Cause I think the last time I came over here to talk to y'all, we were having a hard time getting people out here on a regular basis to service you guys like we were supposed to. At this time, right now, our staffing is where it needs to be. Our technicians, we've got the technicians that we need, so it's looking good right now. Hopefully, this storm put us back a little bit this past week, but hopefully we can get where we need to be. We did talk this morning about, looks to me like we had some communication issues. We have a supervisor that comes over here and he should be meeting, if not meeting, at least communicating every morning and every evening, you know, where we are on the routes, what we anticipate to do that day, and then what did we do that at the end of the day, at the end of the day report. He has not been doing that, which we talked about that this morning. So I'm going to be working with him and with Mark, trying to make sure that we get that communication going where it needs to be, so you guys know where we are at the end of every day and what our plan is for tomorrow. I know he did do that tonight with you, and that's what I expect from him every day. That's probably something I should have been looking at. I just assumed he was doing it because when I first came here, he started coming in here, I think, meeting every morning, and but he quit doing that. So we had a communication issue. Looking at service, it looks like we've had some service issues. It looks like it really jumped up with some misses in November. That's something that I plan to work closer with the city, with Jesse, on trying to address any kind of service issues, maybe a weekly talk with her, you know, to find out where we're at and the kind of issues we might have. I'd look at the teamwork that we have with Atoka. I think that we can improve more with better communication. I would say that's been on me, but I've been trying to get my hands around this operation here. We dispatch about 70 drivers a day throughout the area, and I think that I've got a management team. The management team that I have now are the people that I've hired. We've had some turnover before I came in here, and I had to hire basically the whole staff when I got here. So we've got operations manager and 6 supervisors now, an office manager, all that I put in place, as well as a fleet manager and a fleet supervisor for the night shift. So I think we're headed in the right direction. We've still had some hiccups, but I think that our service has improved throughout the area. Like I said, the communication, that's on me. I need to communicate more with the city, and we started that today. So do I have any questions?
We know Miss Jessie's a stickler now.
Yes, sir.
She ain't gonna play no game. She'll be the first one to come in there and say, y'all, we need to fire these people. But so, I'm just saying, y'all, you don't stay on top of it.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else got anything they have to say?
Just let's make them stay on top of it.
That's right.
If they're not communicating the way they're supposed to, we need to fire off email, call them in or something. I mean, so.
Anything else?
Little word of praise. We had one of our residents, I think it was last month, reach out through Jesse that I think one of your equipment's had a little bit of a malfunction, got some oil in the cove. Pretty upset about it, and once again, we reached out, you guys sent an email, got it cleaned up, made his day, so thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, those things happen, so. How are they doing in your neighborhood, Christy? I know in the past you've had some,
I gotta be honest, I'm surprised when my trash gets picked up on the correct day. It
Okay.
is 50% of the time, it's the next day after it's supposed to be picked up.
Okay.
And it's been pretty consistent for the last probably 3 or 4 months like that.
Okay.
And I do report it through the app,
Mm-hmm.
through the town every time.
Can I get you to communicate with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll give you my card.
In which I've said it several times, probably every time y'all come. I've had some misses, but normally it's because I don't bring my can to the street. So it wasn't on y'all, it was really on me, but other than that, you've always been great.
You're not
I'm not reporting misses because I didn't run down the street, but, you know. Seems to be in my neighborhood, you know, everybody's pretty good.
Well, if you have any issues, if you'll talk to the city, I'll be glad to work with y'all on any, especially, something like that that's regular. I need to find out why, and then we can
And you
fix
know
that.
where street she's talking about?
No, sir, I don't.
If I told you, would you know?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would not.
Y'all need to tell her tomorrow, y'all get it.
Yeah, I think Ms. Christie has a card.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
sir.
Ordinance final consideration on beer regulations, Exhibit C, you have it in your packet. We've had the first reading and passed, and I think it was some issues on 10 recommendations. I think we went to 3 on that. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'm still not even sure about the 3.
Okay.
Just kind of like to hear what the idea behind the 3 references was and where it came from. I mean, I don't think we do that with anything else.
But let me, before Chief Rudolph starts, so when we initially had drafted this, we got together with the liaisons on the Public Safety Committee, which were Alderwoman Renfro and Alderman Feldmayer. So after we thought what we had was pretty decent as staff, and we met with them and went through and walked it through everything and made adjustments as needed. The 10 signatures was something that did move through to the first reading. And I'm sure Chief Rudolph can elaborate on it, but I think we were trying an attempt to make sure that somebody who's going to sell alcoholic beverages to the general public, that folks, that were of good moral character, generally speaking. And our old ordinance, well, our current ordinance still it's a little gray on what those requirements would be. So we really try to put something in place that would kind of give the ordinance a little more teeth where necessary, because we did have some violations with some permit holders in the last few months. So that I can let Chief go into a little bit more detail if you have more questions, but that's really what that provision was designed to try to address. Is
Yeah. Do we do it with liquor?
well, we don't
Cigarettes?
regulate liquor. We do.
Cigarettes, tobacco? I mean, what's moral
That-
character have to do with alcohol?
Well, I think it was being in the original ordinance with what we had to work with. I think we were just trying to expound that as a way to verify someone who was going to be selling beer.
And y'all do background checks, correct?
Yes, sir,
Right.
we do.
So that ought to cover that.
And I think it's not unheard of. There's other agencies or cities and towns that do incorporate something like in this, but I think the idea primarily behind it is simply like an employment application. You put some other references on there that really just basically can say, hey, the town has these particular items that they want somebody to stand up to. And when you talk to them, they're just basically 3 people that can say, hey, absolutely, this is the go-to guy or go-to lady for certainly give our endorsement on something like that.
Yeah, I still kind of have an issue with leaving it up to people we don't know making that decision. I mean,
Well-
you do your background check
Yes, sir.
with the applicant, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
And before they do that, they're expected to find somebody that lives around there where they want to open this business and say, hey, will you sign this? I want to sell beer.
Yeah. Well, and I think in the spirit of the original ordinance, there was that, they had to have some sort of connection to the town at first. And this would give that sort of connection that somebody knows of them.
What are you referring to that on?
In the beer ordinance.
What does it say?
Yeah, let me grab it. So, and also in relation to that, you know, it would be the citizens' opinion that you all would ultimately be given the granting them the permit to begin with. But,
Well, that would be the beer board.
correct.
Right. Not
correct.
just a neighbor who may live around that business.
Right.
What if they don't want that business there? You know, I mean, are we gonna just accept what this neighbor says that this, yes, it's okay to sell beer, or no, it's not okay? I mean,
Well, I
don't
think,
He's
I think,
asking not to sell, I mean, it's not asking on the selling part, it's just asking
but
about
they have to have
what
a
kind of
permit to
character.
sell it.
Yeah, but what kind of character do you have?
Well, how do they know what his character is?
What if they're good friends? I kinda know yours, you know
Okay,
mine.
but what if,
And something, you know, more,
He brought up something.
the more I've thought about it, it would be like, and I just said Piggly Wiggly because for whatever reason I couldn't think of another grocery store chain that's not here. But you know, say Piggly Wiggly was to move to town and they brought somebody from Georgia to be the manager, and they're, you know, they don't know anybody that's in the town. You know, so how would they be able to get three reputable
And I don't-
citizens to
correct, yeah.
to sign
I don't
something?
think it's the government's business to decide what's moral for me or somebody else. You know, I mean, we already do background checks.
right, and again, that would be an extraneous piece that one could aid in a background check, could not, like in an application anywhere. But ultimately, it would rest before the beer board to make that final decision based on all the information that's presented to you.
Could we put on there optional? That's not gonna keep them from bringing it force anyway. That wouldn't keep us from going on that.
I don't know that optional gets.
Yeah, that's too little subjective.
All right, you shut it down.
For the
Let's go
consideration,
to the
either
next
just
thing. That's-
strike the provision, and if everyone is comfortable with the rest of the ordinance, we could certainly
We
move forward
can,
by.
we can do away with the three, can't we?
Well, I'm just one opinion now. But I just wanted to.
I mean, you can make a motion with the modification.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, we approve it on final reading, Xing out the number 10, where they've gotta get 3 citizens.
So Xing out the,
Number
207,
10.
810,
Just
207.
eliminating item 10.
Yeah, and I guess you'd have to renumber everything. Item 10 out of 8, 207, 8.
well, I think we still have a good product here even without that. I mean, and this is why it's democracy. Everybody looks at it and sees what they think. All right, so do we have a motion then?
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Do we have a second? All right, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I need a roll call resolution, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, please.
Or, excuse me, I don't really have to, but are there any changes? Do we have any motion to accept the resolution as presented, which we do? There's a second. Any more discussion?
Mayor, may I interrupt, and you need to have the ordinance read by title?
Oh, yeah.
This is an ordinance.
It is,
I got down a resolution. I'm sorry. Let me back up.
you want to start
Thank you.
over?
Yeah, this is an ordinance to approve final consideration on beer regulation. The town administrator has given us some information. This is the second reading, and there's any objection to reading the ordinance by title only. Hearing none, Ms. Debbie, why don't you do that and keep me straight? Thank you.
An ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 2 of the Atoka Municipal Code related to beer.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance for final consideration? Let's go back and do that one more time.
Make a motion to approve on final consideration, but removing 8-207A number 10.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion now? All right, roll call. Alderwoman Renfro,
Yes.
Alderman Giannini,
Yes.
Alderman Philmare,
Yes.
Alderman Harper,
Yes.
Alderman Pace.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Thank y'all. New business ordinance and resolution. Now, this is a resolution, so, all right. Approval of fire prevention and education grant submittal. That's Exhibit D in your packet. And I think this is a grant for 20, how much? Chief?
I think 25 last year, maybe.
25, but it's a 5%,
5% match.
match. Y'all have any questions?
Is it gonna be 25
Chief.
again this year?
Chief, why don't you come up here and word and say yes or no, or
All right, Mayor.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's for fire prevention and safety grant. We put in for it every year, and usually it's around 25, 30,000 for it, and there's a 5% match.
Okay, any other questions?
Chief, is there anything specific you're targeting on this, or besides just pamphlets and stuff like that?
Basically, anything that we can use to reach out to the classifications, the kids, the elderly, that we can, and whatever tools that are out there that we can get our hands on.
Who furnishes the fire alarms? Where you met? Where's that
Smoke
money
detectors,
come
smoke
out?
detectors come from the state,
Yeah, okay.
and they're free.
Well, they're not free, but they're coming. from
Well, I
the
mean,
state for
they're
us.
free. Somebody's paying for it,
Yeah,
taxpayers paying for it,
taxpayers
nothing wrong.
I
But
know
yeah,
what you
they're
mean.
free to put up, we don't charge for it.
We do
and,
5% of 25,000, what would that be? Huh?
About 1250.
1250 is what we'd have to come up with, is that right? Okay.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Is there any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Miscellaneous items, electronic meetings, Exhibit E in your packet. I think we told the staff to come up with a resolution, and I think it was some questions, but Mark, you want to expound on that a little bit?
I can expand on that just a bit. The board had adopted a motion at the last meeting. I want to be specific. There's a motion to consider a fourth option to bring back a resolution to use Zoom or equivalent software service to record the meeting, to provide an opportunity for citizen concerns to be heard virtually, and to have the ability for the recording to be uploaded to YouTube or a similar service for citizens that missed the live meeting to review the recording later. Motion was seconded. All in favor, motion carried. So on that direction, reached out to MTS Legal. I believe you all have a copy of that email chain, and also our management consultant was on there as well, so you can read their comments. But what I got back from Mr. Ronnie Neal from MTS was the resolution that you have in front of you, but I think that there are some questions. If you want to continue with the direction that this is headed, we would need to answer questions. Timeframes, policy, how early does someone need to sign on, what's our retention of records, any future conflicts that would come up by housing and keeping the recordings. So it's really, y'all tell me what you want.
I've got a question. Could we not live stream, and just live stream, don't save, and ask for any comments or questions be sent in to meetings@atoka.com, whatever email you can set up? I'm sure we can set up an email on our website.
Well,
And submit the questions by
yes.
Tuesday at noon, so you have time to print them and all that.
So on the website, I believe all of your email addresses are on the website. Some of your cell phone numbers, if you've given permission, are on the town website. Town hall is open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, so there's really not any issues. If somebody has a question and can't make the meeting, They could certainly submit those questions to any of you that you could be bringing up during public comment, or any member of staff or any department director. And we could read those questions verbatim at the meeting. If that person is able to watch on live stream, they would get their question asked and answered. So yes, there's ways to do that.
I would personally like that way. You know, because once we read our minutes, you know, we record our meetings every month. And Debbie does the minutes, and it's literally
Right.
actions that the board takes, not the conversations or whatever. It's only actions the board actually takes in the minutes. So I would like just a live stream, you know, submit your questions before whatever works best for y'all, you know, to be able to print them off and give them out where everybody can see them up here, you know, we have copies of them or whatever, or you could read them or whatever works best, you know.
I know that there, some members probably get texts during the meeting that somebody's got a question.
Yeah, I've had that.
Somebody here, some of those cell phone numbers are out there and available to citizens. And, I want to be clear on something that I think is very important, is the town is meeting all its requirements for public meetings. We have an ADA accessible building. We've got an ADA accessible parking lot. Our facilities meet all the requirements. They're advertised as they're needed to be advertised. So we're fulfilling our part. Any virtual meetings as you have in your information.
And it costs nothing more now than the time for an employee to load it up to YouTube, right? Aren't they on YouTube?
Well, actually, Kurt he's pretty much doing this, volunteer. So you'd have to tell me what you do through it all.
The way I'm doing it right now is YouTube Live, and it's instantly available. So anybody can basically use the DVR function of YouTube and go back and watch any part of it. It's immediately available.
Now, can you do just straight live?
Yeah, we can
where
do
it doesn't save? Or
yeah, we
whatever?
can do straight live where you have to attend the live meeting and that's it. It won't save it or anything like that. That's the capability of it.
This is all, people to understand, all this that you're doing is your equipment.
Correct. All this
Not
is
the
my
town's
equipment
And if he,
and my time. I'm volunteering for this. So.
part of a volunteer, but the other thing is, if he can't come, then if we keep in mind, we'll have to buy the equipment and everything else for some of us to do it. And I don't think it's in the budget right now, but we'll make whatever y'all want to do, but all this has got to be considered at this time.
If we're doing what we've got to do now, and anything extra we can do, I'm great with. What I don't want is this to cost the town taxpayer dollars for just a few people that may use it. I've looked at some of the videos on there while I was gone, and there weren't that many views. So for it to cost, $10,000 or $20,000 of taxpayer money every year just to do this, I don't think it's cost effective.
So do we have a motion?
This is just for you to research it, right?
Yeah,
I
wanted to bring back what the board had directed by the last meeting.
Resolution.
To bring you back something to consider and give you more food for thought. And I don't know that we have all the questions answered if we want to continue to go the direction that I was given at the last meeting, so hence the discussion.
Yeah, well, two things. One, I am for the issue of transparency, and we are in what I call a digital age, in terms of giving people various opportunities. And as you mentioned, I am definitely open to the fact that if you've got a question that you'd like to be presented to the board, could it be emailed ahead of time and read live at a public meeting? In the last meeting, I was focused solely on Kirk because he is volunteering, right? Making sure that we weren't doing an undue burden on him. One of the things that came to me is, are we also putting our town recorder, she does record the minutes, and is there any opportunity, if there's a recording, and for somebody to try to say that those two, didn't match or something was off or one thing, you know what I mean? I just want to, I guess also, I didn't bring that to you, Mark, it was just something that kind of came to me. I want to make sure that, that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, because it is about transparency, but at the same time, we have a good recorder, I'll state, from from the board. And I don't want to, like I said, I didn't want to bother her, but I also at the same time want to make sure that we're being fair to all town staff. So,
I think that's a good point.
so.
Well, let me just read from a lawyer through MTAS on the topic of public comment during governing body meetings. Our state open meetings law does not require that citizens be permitted to speak during public meetings. Now, we're one of the few towns that allow that. It's on our agenda. And some don't. It does not establish a governing body meeting as an open public forum for public disclosure. A limited public forum may be created by the city by granting time during meetings for citizens' complaints or otherwise permitting comments from the public. And I don't mind people doing that. That's, like you said, transparent. They need to do it, and sometimes they have to do that. But I think probably they need to write their questions in, and we can answer it during that time. I thought that was a good idea from Alderman Feldmeyer, but that's just what, this is from our Melissa Ashburn, our attorney that we deal with TML a lot. So you need a motion, Mark, or not a do you need some more direction? What do we need to do, a motion?
Well, if I could, Mayor, just ask for some consensus before you make a motion to kind of get everybody's feelings.
So consensus of what you bring back to us?
Well, a consensus of what the board's feeling is of the direction that they want me to go. And then if there's any further questions, I can try to get any questions answered before a motion's made. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Could you speak with Melissa and Casey and find out if we can do just a straight live stream?
We can.
We can do just a
We
straight
can.
live stream, no save. We can do that. Okay.
That
That was one of the options I presented.
As I said earlier, we're already meeting our requirements for
Right.
open meetings. That's over and above.
Right, okay.
That's what you
And
told me.
if I could offer my opinion, I think that would be the cleanest way, is to provide that opportunity for folks to view a live broadcast of the meeting, and then when it's over, it's over. There's no chance to review it later. I think folks that have questions, they can get those asked and answered in other ways. Heck, they could even send a relative or a friend to come to the meeting and ask the question. That's just my opinion, but obviously it's whatever the board feels that they want to go.
So if we wanted to do just the live stream and over and done with, then we really don't need to do anything, right?
Well, we should still have a policy of what you're gonna do, and then when the live stream's over, that's it. I still think there should be something written
Okay.
for that.
But it
just
still
to
gives us
establish
an opportunity for citizens' concern and everything.
And you will never, ever hear me advocate for not having citizen comment at the public meeting in person.
I think I would like to have a, because I don't know about everybody else, but I've got like 8 emails. But I would like to have all the questions come to one account. That way, basically, you have to
We can set that up.
print it out.
What we could do, and I've been thinking about
Questions
this.
at board meetings or whatever you want to make it,
Sure. I've been thinking about this as a little bit of a aside, but that all of the aldermen have, if somebody has a question and a citizen emails Alderman Feldmeyer, Alderwoman Renfro, and Alderman Pace, they're all getting the same questions. It just gets distributed to the entire board.
Right.
Again, for transparency, that way one board member getting information over here and a couple of her don't know nothing about it. So that's something I've been kicking around, but we can certainly set up an email address and put it on the agenda when we put the packet out there. And we could probably even put it on the webpage when folks go to look for the meeting packets, that if you've got questions, submit them by, noon the day of the meeting and send it to this email address. So yeah, there's ways to address it, yes.
And also, in the interest of sunshine, just to be clear, when that email comes across, we're not replying to that email.
Correct.
We are addressing that question here at the board meeting.
And we can set it up so it can't be replied to, I believe, as well.
Gotcha, okay. And there's no,
No, there's no discourse.
That way, if I don't check my email Tuesday morning, I don't miss, but at 12 o'clock on Tuesday, or whatever time you set up,
Yeah.
you check it. Yeah, that way,
And we could set it up that it goes to all of y'all, and it goes to senior staff maybe the town recorder, myself, and that way there's somebody sick or something that still gets brought up. So that way you all know what questions being asked and what answers that.
So basically, they'd send it to that email and then you would just forward out to everybody.
It'll distribute
Okay,
out to
yeah.
everybody, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, is that consensus of the board, what Alderman Philmar just talked about?
Sounds good to me.
Anybody got anything to add to it?
I'll say in regards to just the live stream only, I know housing in-house would add additional costs, but I'd like to see it, if we're streaming it straight to YouTube, it's a free thing for us to keep it there, if I'm not mistaken. For that, is it not free?
No cost.
It's no cost?
No cost.
So I get the point of the challenging of minutes, but to me, this is another tool for us to be able to use as well. That way, Ms. Debbie has done a great job with the minutes, and she captures us very accurately with what we're doing and the actions the board's taken. I just feel this would be another tool for us to be able to use, along with the fact of, I understand if you're not on that meeting and it's just over and done, but that can be the frustration, is because sometimes, well, you don't think you're going to miss that meeting, but all of a sudden you do. It's at least a way to catch up what happened. It's just another transparency measure.
So if we were to keep them, that's the next question that Mark's asking us, is how long do we keep that? Do we keep that on YouTube, for a week, for a month, for a year?
One option might be to only keep it on YouTube until the minutes are adopted at the following meeting, and then it's gone.
You can do
So
that.
would give
I like
maybe
that
a-
idea, because
Yeah.
once again, if I'm unable to catch the live stream, then I've still got, essentially several weeks,
Yeah, so
to
there's,
do
again,
the meeting.
that's why it was such a rough draft.
Right.
Because there's a lot of ways we can skin the cat.
So if we decide to go either route with keeping it for a month or just the live stream, at the moment, it's at his availability, right? So if he were to
Not
move to
be.
Texas or whatever, then
We'd have to
whatever
buy
we
something.
decide, we'd have to buy the equipment and find somebody who can do it. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Or you can make the live stream, you can make it all at will and revocable, at any time.
Could be something that maybe we have some language in whatever the policy is, that
Right.
the board will make every effort to try to broadcast these in, live stream,
Yeah.
and we.
Yeah.
we'll
All
make
right,
every
Mark,
effort.
you know what you gotta do?
Well, do I?
That's the bottom line. We need to move on with this, because I think everybody.
So let me see if I can.
Well, let's do it.
Pick up.
Give me what you think we're supposed to do.
Okay. So we're looking at a live stream option with
The ability to email questions
the
ahead of
ability
time.
to email questions to an email address that will be distributed to all board members and a couple members of senior staff. And then I'm a little unclear on whether you're looking to keep the recording for a month or it's going to be live stream only.
I'm live stream only.
Live stream only.
I'm a month.
All right, we got 3, need to go down through there then. All right, because I hear 3 and 2, is that right? All right, live stream only, and then it's over with. Alderman Renfro?
Yes.
Alderman Jeanette?
Yes.
Yes.
Alderman Phil Meyer? All right, Alderman Harper?
Month.
Alderman,
1 month.
all right, you got the direction.
Okay, so live stream only. Email questions to the board. Am I missing anything else? I think those are the major components.
And there will be a deadline on that? I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
know if
email
you
questions
email
with a
5
deadline.
minutes before.
Yeah, maybe set it for noon
We
the
need
day
to-
of the meeting.
Well, I think you need to have it a day before.
Day
Day
before.
before meeting, you know how much is going on through here.
If I close the business the day before?
I think so. I know when I was at the board, and I don't want to bring that up, but you had to be on the thing 2 weeks before you could be on, get up there.
Okay.
And they still do that, I think.
So live stream only, we're gonna have an email set up for questions that will be distributed to the board and senior staff. And any questions would need to be submitted prior to the close of business the day before the meeting, so it would be 5 PM on Monday, as an example.
I like that.
Okay?
All right? So we'll act on this next month.
I'll
You have it right.
Resolution narrowed down and
All right.
good to go.
All right, moving on, thank y'all. 2023 budget process memorandum, that was on Exhibit F in your packet. And is this for just a matter of information?
It is, and I wanted to give the board a little bit of information relative to starting the budget process. The memo that you have is similar to last year's, although not the same, but similar. You know, we've had a lot of changes that we're going to be faced with. Announced of Blue Oval City. Last fiscal year, we decided we were budgeting for our long-term, or our long-range comp plan. That's going to be something that we need to consider while we're creating the budget. We budgeted for it this year for the expense of the plan, but any implementation of the plan and anything that we would need to do as a result of, we need to at least have a few dollars set aside to be able to carry out that implementation. As an example, if something, you know, well, we think we need to have more walkable sidewalks or more recreation, I'm just throwing stuff out there as ideas, we need to be able to have funds to be able to implement whatever the results of the plan are. I'm not saying we need to budget another 100,000, but we might want to set 10,000 aside, because the comp plan won't be done for another year. So it's going to be completed in fiscal year 23. So these are just things that we need to consider as we create the budget. But as we did last year, we'll be meeting with staff. You can see the dates there, February 9th and the 22nd. We'll be meeting with department heads, March 10th and 23rd. And then when we get into April, we'll be meeting with the board and the liaisons for finance and administration on the 4th and the 19th. And then we'll have our, hopefully our public work session May the 3rd. And then you'll have your first consideration of the fiscal year 23 budget at your meeting on May the 10th.
But on those work sessions with Alderman Harbor and Alderman Aiken, they're on the finance.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other board member can come.
Yes, sir.
And participate and do the things they need to do.
Anytime we have two members of the board, we always put out a public notice that it's a public meeting, and if there's any board members that, you know, that want to be, you know, at least sit in and hear what's going on, and provide some input, they're
So
certainly
they
welcome to
can
do
have
so.
input in there if they need to.
You know what times yet?
We were shooting for 4 o'clock is what we had done last year, like April the 4th and the 19th would be 4 o'clock. If we need to adjust, if there's somebody that, you know, wants to definitely try to make sure they make it, we can tweak those times. And then on May the 3rd, we'll probably have something at 6:30 or, you know, around our normal kind of work session time when we get there. So we'll make sure it gets adopted on time and on schedule, just like last year.
Well, I might as well put this in, and y'all need to write this down forward if you can. February the 22nd at 3 o'clock. Y'all had an email on this, but I'm on 22nd at 3 o'clock. I think that's a Tuesday.
I think so, but I'll double check.
We're going to, Mayor Huffman, commissioners, he's gonna meet with us and tell us the money that we can get, for infrastructure. All the monies that out there, he should have that.
He wants to meet with all Aldermen, right?
Aldermen, and we can have I think we put it with the planning too, but Alderman and, of course, it's a public meeting, so. Anyway, that's the 22nd.
It is a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday, and it's at 3 o'clock. That's what Mayor Huffman wanted to do at 3. I know it might be
Here at the town hall.
Here at Town Hall.
town hall. And we need to reach out to them, Ms. Nancy and them, and see what they need for us to have here. He said something about a smart board or something like that. Y'all, he might have to bring his. I think he said he had his. So he might have a way.
I'll check with Ms. Nancy.
Please. All right, go ahead. Next thing, is that all on the budget?
Yes, sir, this is information.
Any questions for Mark? All right, moving on, report on the debt obligation, Exhibit G in your packet, and Mark, you want to give us?
Sure, it really just
about
is-
660,000.
Yeah, that's all that it is that we're required to provide this information to the board as a result of the debt service. So there's no action that's required. It's basically the follow-up of the debt obligation and report, interest rate costs, et cetera. So you've already approved the debt service, but we're required to provide this information to you.
All right, moving on. Any questions to him about this? I think, John, you got your answer about the money and all. All right. Update organizational chart, Exhibit H in your packet, and this is, we're growing and tweaking and things are coming down and, meeting on the planning, y'all got a meeting, flyer on the Atoka on track, meeting February 23rd at 5:30. All that's gonna have to come into play. So Mark, you wanna tell us about it?
So it's been a little while since there's been an update to the organizational chart. I spoke with each of you individually about that. So we added a public works clerk position. We have a MS4 stormwater coordinator for future use. Let's see, as we're going from left to right, largely the police department is the same. Added the assistant to the town administrator position. Parks and Rec, with just some name changes and title changes to Parks and Rec. Fire department, we have identified some of the positions in the fire department to clarify some of those and talk with that with Chief Posey. And then on the finance and administration, added a human resource generalist, a deputy town recorder position in anticipation of Miss Debbie's retirement in a couple of years. And then those are really the changes there, and then operations clerk. So what I want to do is have the finance side of the hall, that's the finance department, and to revamp some of the duties and jobs for the current utilities clerks and make them more operations clerks, and get some more cross-training in that department. And then the public works clerk, they would handle any of the water, sewer, public works needs down at public works. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So we need to approve it?
Do you need to approve it? Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a question.
It's not really, I just want to clarify something. So
Sure.
under this, once we have the planner, the code enforcement will be under that.
Correct.
It's not a director position.
That is correct, yes, sir. So as you can see, the planner engineer is part of the planning and inspection department. So it won't be code enforcement any longer, it'll be planning and inspection, and the planner engineer would be the head of that department, yes, sir.
Just to clarify, the code official property maintenance, is that also a future use, or are we saying that we're gonna fill that position now?
Ultimately, I think it's probably gonna be a year. I think MS4 is maybe gonna be a 1.5 to 2 year position, but I think, I'll just say that the person who can do the building inspector code official can probably in the short term do the property maintenance as well.
In the short term?
In the short term. That is probably gonna turn into maybe being an additional position at some point as we continue to grow.
Mark, in the fire department, we've got lieutenant and then lieutenant paramedic. What is the distinction? I know the distinction is the paramedic, but there's nobody falling under the lieutenant paramedics. As we have it currently, they're the leads of that shift. So what is the distinction difference with this?
Well, I'll be honest, I had a hard time getting it to flow the way that I really wanted it to flow.
Okay.
But I'm looking at it, and Chief Posey and I talked about this, that we're looking at it as the lieutenant rank. So
Okay.
Everybody that's under the lieutenant is under the lieutenant paramedic spot as well. And
Okay.
But everybody still reports to the chief, so
Gotcha.
hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept the chart as presented.
Who made the motion?
Danny Philmont.
Second.
We have a second by Alder Lady Renfro. All right, do we need, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on, Mark, to the Departmental reports, code enforcement. Mark, you gonna give that?
I can,
Just give the
I think,
information. I noticed 32,000. Is that total for this month or how long?
yeah, that's total for the fiscal year.
All right,
So
okay.
back from July.
I see. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Any questions on that? All right, we are keeping up though, with the builders and what they need, is that right?
I believe that we are, yes, sir.
Okay.
We're in daily communication with people with Glenn and Munford.
Everett.
We're
All right, so
trying to
y'all
help us.
keep in communication, and he, he didn't tell me. Okay. All right, fire department, Chief Posey.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Board of Aldermen. You got the numbers in front of me. Let me just first preface them and say that those numbers for January, that's the most calls we've made on any January since our inception 7 years ago. So we were quite busy in January. We'll also look, the EMS calls were up almost double at 85. So January was quite a busy month. I don't have a whole lot. First, I'd just like to say welcome back to Alderman Giannini.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your service.
Glad to be back.
Appreciate it. Glad to have you back. I'd like to give praise and kudos to our public works and police officers this past week with the ice storm. I think the town was well served by our emergency services and the call volumes that we made, and I just want to give hats off to them. They did an outstanding job. Only other thing I got is we're well into our 40-hour in-service state pay, and we had classes past week and ended up having to cancel one because of the ice storm, but we'll reschedule it. Other than that, any questions? Thank y'all.
All right, Parks Department, Director Isabel.
I'm gonna probably be quick so I do not cough to death. I've got this fun lingering cough that maybe one day will go away. Most of the information is on my board report if you have any questions. A few things I just wanted to go over real quick is some barbecue fest numbers and food truck festival. We have food truck festival coming up in March, and we currently have 11 trucks, a little over a month out, and 17 vendors. We're also going to have a petting zoo, yard game set up, and then we have a bounce house vendor that's actually going to set up some of their bounce houses and allow the kids to play on.
You gonna have some tables to sit on?
Yes, so we got, the end of last budget year, when I kind of got, permission to do some spending, we got 5 additional picnic tables, and then of course we move a lot of the stuff from the fields over there so they have places to sit. We also encourage people to bring their picnic blankets and things like that, and they did really good about that. Barbecue Fest, we have 2 title sponsors so far this year, Ritter Communications and Drango. And then aside from that, we're almost to the 16,000 mark on sponsorship so far, which is pretty good at this point. Teams, we have 23 so far, and then we have 7 merchandise vendors and 4 food vendors at this point. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, that's all I have.
I noticed that we made money, or I said made money, each program took care of itself except the art. What's going on there?
I think that was the adult art, is that correct?
I don't
So,
know,
I think it's,
$400-some.
yeah, I think it's adult art, so it'll bounce out in the end. I just didn't want to keep it empty. It's something new that we're offering, so some of it we had to buy the supplies ahead of time, but we're using them throughout all the classes throughout the year. So you'll see it bounce out overall once we're done for the year.
Thank you.
But yes, that is always our goal, is to try to break even maybe a little bit more if we can help it.
Police Department, Chief Rudolph.
Good evening. And as to mimic what Chief Posey was saying, and I do want to recognize him and his men as well for all the work that they did. They were certainly not in the firehouse very much during all the snow and ice that was going on, so thank you to them as well. As you can see, presented before you are the stats. Again, just a reminder, I'm comparing stats from this time this year versus the same time period of last year. So as you look at it, you can see, overall that there's a 66% increase or decrease in crime. That's awesome to be able to say that in the beginning of the year, but as we know, that populates and that changes as the year goes on. Next, we have a notable arrest that I'd like to bring up. Officers were flagged down very recently in relation to a domestic violence. Our officers were told that a domestic violence victim was kept inside her house against her will. She was beaten pretty badly. It turned into a barricade situation here in the town. Our officers responded with the assistance of Tipton County Sheriff's Department. Thankfully, I made the scene as well, and thankfully we were able to remedy that situation within about an hour's time. So
That's fairly quick.
it was very quick, and I'm pleasantly surprised. No injuries, no unnecessary damage or anything like that. So an individual, of course, went to jail over it, and he's having to answer to the system for it. But our officers do a very good job. And lastly, we're keeping forward in our training with our officers. Again, that's very strong for me. And we're going through our in-services. We've already started lieutenant in-service, and our lieutenants are going through their annual training. We're also going to have a training here next Monday in relations to forfeiture and asset seizures for our officers, so we don't get caught up in any kind of snafus when it comes to our obligations to the state if there was something that we were going to be seizing. And then we'll be starting up very soon the sergeant in service training. So again, a lot of training on the schedule for us. So other than that, if there's any questions. All right.
Coming up on your 1-year anniversary, aren't you?
I sure am. Yeah, February 13th.
February,
13th, be Sunday.
what do you want us to do?
Keep me employed.
Obey the law. That's a good one, thank you. Public Works Department Director, Patrick.
Good evening. You have the numbers there. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. I want to thank Chief Posey and Chief Rudolph for their efforts over the past few days with the snow and ice. Couldn't have done it without them. Other than that, we don't have a lot. We got the only thing I've been working on with barbecue festival. What we're going to do a little different with the roads and the water and power and stuff like that. Got one position open right now. I got some applications, and we're going over and trying to pick the best candidate for the job. Other than that, that's all I got.
Two things, I've seen some trucks at Main Street Pumping Station.
Yes, sir.
Is everything going okay?
Control panel went out Saturday. Well, the control panel went out Saturday. They had
the weather,
I assume.
insurance claim, or deal.
And I can get with the contractor that fixed it and find out. But they originally thought it was one of the transducers in the wet well. They replaced it, and I assumed it was bad because it worked a little bit Saturday, and then all day Sunday it was not. They came out first thing Monday morning, and we discovered it was a control panel. They got it replaced. Everything's in good working order now.
Okay. Early on, we talked about coming up with kind of a paving schedule, kind of overall, kind of on the town.
Yes,
kind
sir.
of, I know you had your hands full. Kind of where are you at with that?
It actually crossed my mind the other day. I found some books that Daniel had, or a binder, and I went through those, but they were old. They were 2015, 2016. Roads have already been paved. I'm gonna try to mimic what he had there, see if we can't come up with something similar to that.
I have one resident who lives in Tipton Crossing. Apparently, they had spoke to the board a few years ago. That was probably before I was even on the board, and that since then we've done some patching. And I had every intention of kind of driving through there, but I didn't,
Yeah.
and I didn't know kind of what
The deal with Tipton Crossing is they're still building back there, so it's kind of like putting final layer on first before you pave. I mean, you stand a chance of tearing it up with the equipment going back there every day. We've been trying to stay on top of keeping it patched, but this time of year it's hard because Climbers not making any asphalt. We have to go to Memphis to get it if we even get it, if they're even making any. So, but we've been trying to keep on top of that pretty good. I know, we miss them here and there, but we have been trying to stay on top of that area specifically because of the traffic going back and forth through that development.
But Director, that's one spot there pretty bad.
On Tipton Crossing?
Yeah, before you get back there.
Okay.
It's before you get to the Beaver Pond.
Yes, sir. Okay.
It's on this side.
I'll take a look at it.
Y'all might need to look at that. It's
Okay.
pretty bad, but I know what you're talking about. You're probably gonna pave that whole park down.
Yes, sir,
there when you get it
that,
done.
probably so. Probably just gonna have to go on and bite the bullet and pave all that. So,
I've noticed on Tracy Road at the new bridge, well, the old new bridge, our new bridge, not this county.
by Dollar General?
No, the one at Mead Lake, there you go.
Okay.
Not the Mead Lake Bridge, but the Tracy Road Bridge at Mead Lake.
They had to replace, they had to replace.
Yeah, we had to
everything
replace
down
it
the road.
before the Mead Lake Bridge. You know where we're at? Shelby County. But, I've noticed that the approach, it's like the bridge is getting taller, it seems like.
Okay, just so we're clear, coming off of 51
So
on
come off Mead Lake,
Come off Mead Lake,
Okay.
take a right,
Take a
go
right.
towards your shop,
Fort, go left.
before you go left.
It's the
Okay.
first bridge.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I got you now.
In front of the siren right there.
Yeah.
Big Creek.
Okay.
Yeah, Big Creek, there you go. Big Creek Bridge.
All right, I got you now.
It seems like the,
Bridge is raising up, approach is falling down.
yeah, it
Okay.
just, it's,
Okay.
yeah, it seems like it's getting,
How long ago has that one been? How long ago was that one was replaced? Do you remember?
oh, it's 10 years.
When did you have the 100-year flood?
2010. So
That's when it
12
was
years.
flooded.
All right.
And that
It was right in there sometime.
Okay.
It's not very old, but
Yeah. Yeah. Not certainly not old enough for that to happen.
I just know the bridge on Mead Lake started doing that, and I got out and looked under it, and there was nothing under it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get over there and check it out. See what we can figure out.
Is Tracy all open? I haven't been there the last 2
Yes,
years.
ma'am. It's open now. We only close it just.
Stuff off the road,
Yes, sir.
side road?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was nothing in the road, I mean, no trees across the road, it was just so dangerous for people to be driving down, and we just wanna go ahead and close it before anything would happen, so. All right, thank y'all.
All right, moving on, miscellaneous items from the mayor, board of aldermen, and town administrator. I've already told you about February the 22nd. Want to move Sergeant Giannini back to his position, and Alderman Philmeyer goes back to his positions.
I thought you was gonna let me resign before you fired me.
I think we'd already said that.
Oh,
that
okay, yeah, I forgot.
You moved on, and
Yeah.
just like it was, so that will be as is. And then,
Welcome back to the planning commission.
Thank you, sir.
and then,
There's nothing hot topic at the moment.
Not at all, not at all. I heard about that 7,000 miles.
let me say, only democracy is good. I think that's all I have at this time. Any alderman have anything?
Mark, I've got a couple things here. One, I know we use this as a storm shelter for tornadic weather, stuff like that. With the ice storm that just went through, I'm kind of looking at Memphis right now with people that have had long-term power outages. I know we had several power outages out in this area, not sure about long-term. Would there be a way that we could look at maybe the police department opening up maybe this room if somebody doesn't have power for an extended period of time, just to come in, maybe get warm, maybe charge a cell phone or something, just as kind of a storm shelter here in case there is a long-term power outage in those situations?
And you guys who have been here longer than me can.
We never had to use it that way.
Well,
It wasn't designed.
That's right.
For any kind of
For that.
long term, it was designed for a short period of time for somebody to come in for a tornado and.
And go.
Right,
Not
and
to
I'm not saying like somebody come in and stay, but I mean, maybe open it up for a couple hours in a situation like that. So,
There are some FEMA rules based on us getting the grant for the,
okay,
so we have to look into that.
okay.
That's right.
The second thing I wanted to bring up, I've been noticing quite a few municipalities in our area, along with people like Memphis Police Association, thing along those lines, with salary studies for all of their employees, or in the police department's whole idea was their salaries, and I'm just wondering if we could get a look at a full study done and how long that would approximately take. I know we've spoke about that in the past, but I didn't know how long that would actually take for us to be able to complete.
I've been gathering information as I've seen positions open. I know Chief Posey's given me information, and I'm picking up information ourselves. We've contacted a couple other municipalities in the region. So as part of the budget process, so we'll be discussing that certainly as part of the budget process. And I think, honestly, I think speaking plainly, we're probably gonna have to make some adjustments.
And that's, and that's why I wanted to bring it up now, just so, I know it's coming with the budget process and all. I just don't want to potentially lose employees just because of somebody else maybe paying a little bit more. If we can at least look at it, that's all I'm asking.
Sure.
Last thing I have, this was just emailed to the entire board, from a concerned citizen that is currently away on travel with the Navy. And I'll kind of read this word for word. Quote, I respectfully request that the board reconsider the decision to have meetings available for those who may not be able to attend. Keeping the meetings for 6 months or a year seems like an easy and effective way to reach more citizens who work or have child care responsibilities or other commitments that do not allow them to attend in person. Quick check of YouTube shows that 27 people viewed December's meeting and 73 viewed January's meeting. It goes on a little more. I've never seen 73 people just pack this room along with us doing a live stream like that. I've seen where we've had several people come in at one time, like this past planning commission, but 73 more people viewing it, even if that's over the course of a month, that's 73 more eyes that have gotten to see this. So that's my input. That's just what I wanted to read from the citizens themselves.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Alderman Pace. Town Administrator, you have anything?
Just a couple of very brief items. Again, want to welcome back Alderman Giannini for his service.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you back. Wanted to make note of that, but also, Mayor, you already brought up the meeting with Mayor Huffman on the 22nd at 3 p.m. here at Town Hall about potential funding for infrastructure. I am working on getting a meeting with TDOT to look at the Mead Lake Road, Atoka Idaville intersection to see if anything can be done. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to try to shoot for Monday, so I'll probably be communicating with at least a couple of you to just FYI so you know what's going on. So we've been bouncing emails back and forth for quite a few days trying to get something nailed down. When you're dealing with 6 people from the state and everybody's in a different area, it's like herding cats.
I've asked Mark to do
we're
this,
working
so
on it.
he's not taking it on his own.
I'll add that I also asked Mark to do that. I just told him we've gotten to know before, people change hands at the state.
That's right.
Different people come and go. I mean, we've already got to know, all we get is another no. But we get fresh eyes on it.
Right.
And you all do have, and we left a few of these up here for the Atoka on Track, our long-range comp plan. Those meetings are going to begin. So we've got February the 23rd, 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. So it's going to be the first citizen engagement. There is a schedule throughout each of those days, but we're going to have a call set up with Bob from Orion to talk through that schedule, because there's probably some topics that wouldn't include the entire advisory committee group, but certainly maybe department heads or those on the advisory committee that would have a particular viewpoint, that they're in that segment. So we have to talk through the schedule with him, but I just wanted to, as a reminder, the 23rd, we have that meeting, and then the 24th, we'll be in touch with the schedule for that as well. Wanted to let you know that we're attending virtual meetings with Blue Oval City, so that's bi-weekly. Our next one's tomorrow, and really it's just an avenue that they're trying to use to communicate with all of the mayors in West Tennessee, because you can imagine everybody's trying to cut to the front of the line. So that's what they're using to get information out. And just wanted to compliment Town Hall staff. I'm sure that you guys realize it, but maybe you don't realize the amount of effort and work that all of the Town Hall staff puts in. The after hours, the emails, the text messages, the work, physically showing up to deal with things, after hours, or just to go that extra mile. You got some of the hardest working employees around. I'd put any of our folks up against any of them. So all of our departments, everybody, they just did an exceptional job, and you saw a little bit of that from the winter storm that we just had. So I just wanted to make sure that our staff was recognized. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, This time, citizens' concerns. All right, we're doing great.
About 15, 20 minutes, I'll be done.
Please.
Welcome back. And I'll let you know, I offered to sit in your place, just duct tape the bottom half, and they said no. So, all right. Concerning the garbage, I could care less what you do. I don't use it, but every garbage company and every trucking company, everything else has got driver problems, truck problems, and everything else. So, y'all do what you want to do on that. On this beer ordinance, I think that was wise to take the 3 out, because you take, what'd you say, Piggly Wiggly, Chili's, Applebee's, somebody come, anybody. They don't know sold here. What are you gonna do, turn them down because of that? That doesn't. But this survey, now we talking about a civil survey?
No, it's a property
Property survey.
survey.
Who's gonna pay for that?
I imagine the chief would just go out there with a tape measure and a fish.
Yeah, it's not
It's not
a stamp certified.
Yeah, it says a survey. So, okay. So that's not gonna be an expense on somebody?
No, basically you can go
When
do
Fast
it.
Times did it over where we were, they just measured it all, pre-stepped it all. I was there when they did that.
Well, I mean,
That's 4 hours every 5.
you're saying survey, so I just want, that to be clear.
Well, I mean, I just told it what they.
That could run into a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then, where is it? Oh, there's it. Page 8. Page 8, item number 9.
Here, let me try it.
The beer ordinance?
Uh-huh.
I didn't see that.
The top is 8-213, regulations of the beer board.
Which number?
Number 9. No alcoholic beverages, beer/beer will be allowed to be consumed in or upon the premises of a liquor store. Now, how do you regulate something you don't license? And the state says I can do tasting and sampling, so that's consuming, so.
I think, I think the intent of it, Rick, was just make sure they don't stay out there.
Well, if I have a tasting or sampling, am I gonna be in violation of this?
No, sir, I don't think so. The intent, I think, we gotta go to the intent of the law. Now, that's me. That's me just thinking. I'm not gonna risk somebody doing that.
Yeah, but are you gonna be here in 2 more years, 4 more years, or?
Well, I don't know, I might
Yeah.
not be here tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true, but-
The thing about it
Yeah.
is, right now, that's still my intent.
That's the intent, okay.
For the intent of the law.
All right, that's what I need to know. Y'all have a good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
But it does,
Thank you for your questions.
the state does allow for tasting.
Yeah, it does. All right, to have a motion to, any other citizen? To have a motion adjourned,